Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the DropKick Podcast. Today we have one of our biggest guests so far on this show. He's a WWE producer slash WWE veteran.
He's a three-time tag team champion and a Canadian Wrestling Hall of Famer. By far one of our biggest guests. So please welcome Tyson Kidd, everybody.
What's up, guys?
Tyson, how are you doing today?
Good, man. How you guys doing?
We're doing great. How have you been handling your time in self-quarantine with everything that's been going on lately?
So luckily for me, I've been able to, we've still been running shows. We've been doing our TV taping. So I've at least been working. So I'm very fortunate and very blessed in that. I've turned my garage into a home gym. So, So I've been doing okay with it. I see a lot of people that are definitely struggling during this, and it's very tough and a very strange time where we've never been through anything like this. So I think we just kind of have to try to do best we can day by day.
Yeah, we just gotta stick together and hopefully this ends soon. Yeah.
That's what we can really hope for.
Yeah. The last time we saw you on TV, actually wrestling was 2015. And what have you been doing since retiring? Actually.
So I work backstage as a WWE producer. I've been a producer. I had about 2 years off from when I got hurt to when I started as a producer. And so I've been doing that almost 3 years now, almost 3 years exactly. I started in June 2017.
Great.
Yeah, and producer role. So you've been on both ends. You've been the wrestler. You've been the producer. So what has that transition been like? Like, what's it like being on both sides?
There's definitely a transition. But it's funny. There's a lot of things that make it that are very different between the two sides. But then there's a lot of things that are kind of similar between the two sides in terms of how I view a match and how I view the structure of a match hasn't changed with me being a talent or me being a producer. I just have to try to put myself more often now. Obviously, I have to put myself in the talent shoes to see kind of where they're coming from and how, if from their perspective, how they would structure a match or build a match or where they would put something here. Maybe I would do it a little different, but it works for them, so they go this way. It's just a matter of just figuring out really what works best for everybody.
For sure. What have you worked on so far that we see on television now?
So every week on TV, there's one of those matches at least is mine. I did a lot of stuff. I did a lot of stuff with Seth at first, Seth and Dolph. I did a lot of stuff with Becky and with the women now. Some Ronda, some Sasha matches, of course Natalia matches. Every week you show up, you never know what you're gonna have, and you kind of just do your best with it. So literally, I've worked with everybody, Brock, everybody, Roman,
Wow,
everyone.
For sure. Since that incident occurred with your neck and everything, after the match, did Samoa Joe say anything to you?
Oh yeah. We've had a lot of talks. He came to the hospital that night. We've never had a bad relationship. It was nothing with malice. It was nothing between myself and Joe at any point.
For sure.
Yeah, that's great to hear. So me and Daniel here, we're actually both aspiring pro wrestlers. And we had TJ Perkins on the show recently. And he gave us some advice after we went off the air. And one of those tokens of advice were you may get attached to it, but try your best not to, because with so many big names in this industry, like Edge at one point, Daniel Bryan at one point, you, for example, it can be taken away before you could imagine it. So, I'm just curious, how is your mental state like and your mental health like when you had to walk away from the ring and, basically walk away from what you love so much?
Yeah, that was very tough. So I understand his advice, but to be honest, I don't know that everyone's going to come from different places. I don't know that I 100% agree in terms of, I think to be the best you can at this, you got to throw yourself in 100%. And wrestling consumed my life for, over 2 decades. Consumed my life, everything. Now I have a little bit more time because I'm not on the road full time. So now I'm watching, I've always been a big UFC fan, but now I can the last 5 years, I've really been able to really get into it again, and the NBA and football, things that when you're on the road 4 or 5 days a week wrestling and from town to town driving, I'm just only thinking wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
You can't really be super involved in those things. So I don't know that I fully agree. I think for me, at least what worked for me was I had to be 100% fully involved in wrestling and focused on that. And I threw myself into it a million percent. It engulfed me. So the time when it was taken away, now I'm not, now I've been injured and I don't really know what I'm going to do at that time in terms of what's my next role going to be. Mentally it's very hard because you go for me, I went from, at that time, I was wrestling 5 days a week, and then I would fly home on a Wednesday and I'd fly out on Friday morning back for the road. So I'd fly home Wednesday and I'd get home Wednesday maybe at noon. So I'd have from Wednesday at noon to Friday at 6 a.m. to be home. And during a day and a half home, I might have been filming Total Divas a day and a half. So I was going 7 days a week, some weeks, a lot of weeks. And to go from that to zero is a huge change, and it's very hard. And I like to be physically active. And for the first little while, I had a neck brace on, and I'm not allowed to work out. And then I was allowed to work out. It had to be very, very light. And just the neck brace, like I don't wish that on anyone. It was brutal. It was tough, physically and mentally, very tough.
For sure. We're here talking to you. But like, how does your neck feel as you're talking to us?
Yeah, it feels good. I wake up 99% of the time in pain-free, my whole body. I wrestled for 20 years. I feel good. My hips don't hurt. My knees don't hurt. My neck obviously is what I get asked about the most, which I had an amazing surgeon, and I think I've done a lot to help kind of strengthen my neck as much as I can. I can't do like neck bridges and things like I used to do, but I can. I came home last night after Raw, and I got home and I hit that gym till 2 a.m. yesterday. So
yes,
it's
I
what
saw
I
that TikTok. Yeah, for sure. What was the journey like from getting the neck back to where it is now? How is that? How did that feel for you?
A long journey and a long process where you don't know what the end result is. And I know like that applies to a lot of things in life where you don't know what the end result is going to be. But like, for example, with my knee surgery, I knew that it was 100% recovery. I knew that if I put the time in doing the therapy, my knee would come back 100%, which it has. I've never had another knee issue in my life. But with the neck, it wasn't that. How high they had to fuse up, I lost a lot of mobility, especially right away. And I had to just kind of let it take its course. And there's nothing you can do in terms of neck therapy. You just have to sit, and you don't want to move too much, and you need to let the bone that they put in there and the hardware they put in there, you need to let your own bone naturally grow over it and fuse it all together. So it's just a process of like, it's really weird with my knee. I was able to like attack it and get better. I was supposed to be out for 9 months. I got cleared at 6 months with my knee. But with my neck, it was the opposite. I just have to sit there and let it kind of
sit there,
do its own thing.
For sure, yeah. I think the mental game is where like it hurts more people. You know what I mean? But
100%.
Yeah, that's great though. It's great to hear that you're doing better.
But I had a good group of people. Obviously, Natty, my wife. I have a great support system. But like, it's funny. You get hurt, like you hurt your neck, and then like the people that kind of reach out to you, like all of a sudden, Steve Austin's calling and texting me, and I was already good friends with Edge, but like Edge and I could talk at any time about neck injuries, and Kurt Angle, who at that time I didn't really know, he's calling and texting me, and we're talking about necks. And Lita came from Orlando while she was filming Tough Enough. Wow. Lita came over to visit me and talk, because funny enough, we both had ACL repair and neck fusion, so we kind of had that same road. So that part was very cool, and you see the talent and former talent like reach out to you, and that's the thing where that kind of like helps really keep things going and helps keep me going.
For sure.
Yeah, absolutely. We do like to talk about mental health on this podcast. You're actually married to fellow WWE superstar Natalya. Yep. Do you think being on the road with your partner is kind of like almost like an advantage to your mental health over like some other superstars who are away from their partners while on the road?
Yeah, I think it definitely. So yeah, I think you can kind of look at it both ways. Like, so when you're on the road 5 days a week, that's a long time. That's a long time to be away from if you have kids or your significant other. It's a long time. So maybe you get way too much of that, that alone time. Where maybe if you're on the road all the time together and you're always on the exact same schedule together, maybe you don't get enough of like that. Sometimes you just need a little bit of like that alone time. So maybe so obviously like my version with being on the road with Natty for me made things a lot easier than if we were on separate schedules or if she just like if she didn't wrestle and just I did or vice versa. Like when that was actually real tough too when she was on the road a lot. When I got hurt, she was on the road full time. So I'm home by myself, 4 or 5 days a week. Just sitting here with like a neck brace on, watching my neck get really skinny and just hoping that the fusion all takes place and just kind of not fixes itself. The work had been done by the surgeon, but I had to let it kind of run its course.
Yeah, for sure. Switching gears here a little bit. Who did you enjoy holding the tag titles with, Cesaro or David Hart Smith?
Oh man, so both. They asked me this on the bump. They asked me. They asked me who. Something about which one of us was a better team. Now the truth is, in 2009, 2010, I'm brand new on the main roster, so I'm still finding myself. And by 2015, 2014, when I teamed with Cesaro, I've been here a while now, and I've found myself as a performer. So it was a disservice almost to DH Smith, to Harry, because the three of us were all kind of navigating WWE at the same time, where in 2014 I'm not so much navigating it anymore. I kind of know how it works. So I definitely was a better performer in 2014, 2015. But teaming with Harry, that my very first match, July 1995, is a tag match with Harry, and I trained Natty to wrestle. So then fast forward to 2010, and the three of us are together, and we're out there with Brett as well, and Harry and I win the tag team titles. I mean, that's like stuff that's like that would be written about in a book. It's not not even real life stuff. So that's cool. Like that was really cool to achieve that dream with him. That like was like a throwback to 15 years prior when we were kids.
Yeah. Speaking of the Hart family, just a little bit of a fun question. Who would you say is the goofiest Hart in the entire Hart family?
Oh man, I guess I'd have to say Owen with all the ribs, but I think they all have a pretty good sense of humor. Brett has a really good sense of humor. Natty's mom, I think they all do. I think they all have a really funny sense of humor. Harry's mom, Diana. But yeah, I think Owen, I think he took it to the next level with his ribs and stuff.
Yeah, sure. But speaking of WWE and its wrestlers, who do you feel is the most underrated wrestler on the roster right now?
Underrated right now, man. I don't know if he's underrated. I just think I think he's one of the best wrestlers I maybe have ever seen in my whole life. So, well, I guess number one would be to some people, I guess Cesaro would be number one, but number two would be Shorty G or Gable. I think he's unbelievable.
He's amazing.
I wrestled Cesaro before. I wrestled with him and I teamed with him, and I would love to have done that many more times and for much longer. But I never got a chance to wrestle Gable and wrestle Shorty G. Like when I saw Gable and Jordan coming up as a tag team, was like right after I got hurt, and I thought like what a great series of matches myself and Cesaro could have had with those two. And same with like guys like the Revival at that time, and
yeah.
But I think at the moment, if you kind of take Cesaro out of the equation, I think I would say Gable. I think he's one of the best wrestlers I've ever seen in my whole life.
For sure. Speaking of NXT a little bit, now we see that it's become like this full third brand, but like you were part of NXT back in like 2013, 2014 when it was starting to become the NXT, right?
Yeah.
How did that feel, coming in and like knowing that you had to like deliver no matter what, and just how was that like for you?
It's cool, man. It was a really cool feeling. I talk about this often. So during the time when we started doing those, so I wasn't on that first NXT Arrival, but I was on the first 2 takeovers.
Yeah.
And setting those takeovers up, we'd film 4 episodes in a night.
Wow.
So like there was one night where Finn Balor's debut, his first match in the company is a tag match, Finn and Hideo against myself and Justin Gabriel. That's on the first episode that night. The second episode is myself against CJ Parker, Juice Robinson.
Mm-hmm.
Third match that night is myself against Finn Balor. And the fourth match that night is myself and Tyler Breeze against Finn and Hideo. So and I live about 90 minutes from Orlando. So I was driving home that night thinking like, man, I'm a little bit older than these guys. Maybe not by much, but like Breeze is like, he's still fairly young even now.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, man, I just wrestled four matches with these guys in under 4 hours, and like, I was like, it was fun, man. It was a real sense of accomplishment, and you're right. There was pressure in terms of like we were setting kind of the bar of like what NXT was either going to become or not. And I think the 4 of us, myself, Tyler Breeze, Neville, and Sami Zayn, as well as and the girls, the women did their, they created their own thing at the same time as we were doing our thing, and then the tag team started coming in, like Cass and the Vaudevillains, Blake and Murphy are just a little bit after my time, I think, but it was a cool time, man. It was such a cool time. Like whatever day we'd film on a Wednesday, when I'd drive into Orlando for those tapings, I always knew like, A, I'd need to bring my working boots, but then B, I knew that I would leave that day with like a big smile on my face because I knew we'd accomplish a lot and it would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, for sure. I really enjoyed your run during that time. Like personally, I was like, he's gonna win the NXT title or something big's gonna happen. But
I appreciate it, man. It was a lot of fun, and I developed a lot of growth there, and a lot of really like finding out who I was, and a lot of working with Dusty on promos, and just kind of just the best way to convey kind of who I was or what I felt I was at that time. And
sure.
They gave me a lot of reps there, man. Like I would sometimes show up and like I said, I would have 3 or 4 matches and I would have like 3 or 4 promos that I'd have to film backstage. So like I got really comfortable doing that type of stuff, which is what I needed.
For sure.
Yeah. As a fan, I'm curious, this is a little bit of a fun question. Throughout your WWE run, you had a couple hairstyles, and one of my favorites was the 2009-2010 hairstyle with the shaved head and then the spikes in the front. How did you come up with that one?
So I think I saw a guy on one of the Tough Enoughs that had that haircut, or something similar. And at the time, I figured like I knew that I wasn't very big by wrestling standards. I'm 5'10", like 190 pounds, but you're talking about you got a guy like Eric Rowan that's like 6'8" and 350 pounds. So I knew I needed something to stand out, and I knew I needed work on my promos and things of that nature. So I knew I kind of needed something that like stood out, and that like if you at least saw me, you'd say, what the hell does that guy do? Like, why does he do it? So I needed something. I was wrestling in England once, and I remember I wrestled in this town, and then the next time we were back a few weeks later, this mom was like, oh, look at my son. He saw you wrestle, and he got his haircut just like you. And then this kid had the same haircut, and it happened once in WWE in Cincinnati. We were going to eat at a Hooters or something, and this same thing. A mom was like, look at my son. Look at his hair. And I was like, okay, well, it's catching on to some people. I knew like I like now looking back, I know a lot of people. Like anytime I post if my barber posts a picture cutting my hair, those are the comments always like, "What about his old haircut? Did you cut his hair then?" No, he didn't. That haircut was self-induced.
Oh my god. But yeah, speaking of runs, during your 2014-2015 run, you would come out wearing headphones. What were you listening to all those times?
A lot of Tupac was playing. Some Jeezy. It was funny. Same thing. I would get messages, not so much now, but I would get comments on pictures and stuff like, "You're not really listening to anything. I don't see a chord." It's like, bro, 2014. Have you heard of this thing called Bluetooth that exists? I was really listening to music. Yeah. That was funny. One time, I came out Takeover Fatal 4-Way is the first time I came out with the headphones on.
Yep.
Same thing, like I said, I'm a big UFC fan, so I'd see them come out with headphones, and I was like, well, Jimmy Iovine, so the creator of Beats with Dr. Dre, his son Jamie was a great guy. He worked in WWE at the time, and so I thought like, well, I'll wear these Beats out, and worst case, I might get in trouble. I didn't ask anybody. I was like, I might get in trouble, and I might get told never to do that again. But I know like I'm not going to get sued or something because like the son's owner works for us, and he actually hooked a lot of the guys up with Beats all the time. He's a great guy. I really like him. And so I was like, okay, worst case scenario, I might get told not to do that again. But for some reason, I was allowed to do it. I don't know why. It was okay. And so one time in a singles match, I put my gear down on the apron, and Cesaro grabbed the headphones and put them on. And then he was laughing after. He said, man, he said, so like we're in a PG environment. He said, the music that's playing there is not PG. And then he's like, do you mind if I start coming out with headphones too? And I said, man, please do.
Oh my god, yeah, that's great.
Yeah, that's funny. During your NXT run in 2013, 2014, did you have any like specific goals since you were like given that spot to work with new up and coming stars like Finn Balor and like some bigger stars that we've seen rise up today?
Yeah, I mean, my goal was to like more than keep up. My goal was to try to blow them out of the water, and obviously in a friendly, competitive way, not in an aggressive, I want to hurt them way, and make everybody better. I remember Sammy saying to me one time in the locker room, he said, "Man, I think that we've done too much. We've had," and he didn't mean this in like an egotistical way. He's like, "I think we've had like too many good matches, like in a row, like back to back to back in these performances with myself, Neville, Breeze, Sami Zayn, Adam Rose at the time. Try not to leave people. I'm just trying to think of like I just kept wrestling kind of the same guys down there. Justin Gabriel, and he said, I think we've almost given the fans too much. I said, nah, man, these fans are awesome. They this is what they want. This is like this is a good thing. So my goal really was just to. I knew it was a little bit of a. I had a little bit of a bigger spotlight in NXT, so my goal was to like show what I could truly do, and it was to, like, I knew guys like Sami Zayn and Neville, and I mean Cesaro was on that first arrival. He had that awesome match with Sami.
Yeah.
Everyone already knows Cesaro's the man anyway, so it doesn't matter. So my goal was really just to pick everybody up that I was working with, but also I knew that the spotlight was also on me. Like, for example, I was always told, so the very, very first NXT taping at Full Sail, the main event of that first show was myself against McGillicuddy. Me against McGillicuddy. And that match, I've been told, is what got me in Money in the Bank that year. So like I always knew NXT was a place where I could really spotlight what I could do as well.
For sure, yeah. Yeah. Speaking of spotlights and everything, with the recent comeback stories such as Edge and Daniel Bryan, are you hoping to return to the ring maybe one day, or are you happy where you are right now and satisfied?
No, so yeah, I get asked this a lot, especially because Edge just came back. Of course, Bryan prior. I'm sure someone else is going to come back, and it's going to spark it even more. And I understand that. But the truth is, I'm happy with what I do right now. I wrestled for 20 years. I had a 20-year in-ring career. The truth is, like, my neck fusion is just different than everyone else's. Like, I remember when I posted the pictures with the staples in the back.
Yeah.
Not to name drop, but like I already name dropped him, so it doesn't matter. But Steve Austin texted me right away and said, "Hey, how come they went through the back and not through the front?" And I said, "Because my fusion is so high up, it's literally like where my mouth is."
Right.
It was my C1 and C2, your very first disc letter, just right below like where your brainstem and stuff are. So mine's different. Like edge is through the front, because it's like, it sounds so weird and I hate saying this, but like in wrestling, the normal neck fusion is like C5, C6, C7. Mine is C1. Like even Austin's is pretty high. I think his is like C3, C4. Mine's 1 and 2.
Wow.
So mine just at a whole different level than everyone else's. And the truth is, I truly love what I do, so I'm good with it.
For sure. If you had one dream opponent, who would it be?
I mean, I guess I said it already. I guess I'd have to say Gable. Just I never wrestled Gable. I wrestled I wrestled in some form or fashion almost everybody else. Not everybody else. Definitely not now. But when I got hurt, I'd wrestled kind of everybody else almost on the roster, or done something, like even the time like Undertaker came and attacked my Hart Dynasty in Crime Time. I'd wrestled Shawn Michaels a couple times, Hunter a couple times. Kurt Angle would definitely be a dream match of mine. Or to wrestle. I teamed with him in Europe, but to wrestle against Brett would have been a dream match, obviously. But I think currently I would say Gable.
That's great. Yeah.
Lastly, we have a short little game, I guess, before we wrap it up. So we're going to describe a wrestler or someone in the business, and we would like you to describe one word or one sentence to describe them.
Okay.
All right. David Hart Smith.
Super talented, and people still haven't seen his potential that I've seen this whole time.
Cesaro.
I mean, unbelievable. But as good as he is in the ring, which is crazy good, he's actually a better human being.
Wow.
Vince McMahon.
Genius. Just very interesting, different individual that makes you rethink a lot of things, and he's right a lot more than he's wrong.
Finn Balor.
Extremely talented, great guy. Very, very good guy. He's a very good friend of mine. Very big fan of Finn.
Bret Hart.
I mean, the best there is, the best there was, the best there ever will be. He's so good, man. I watched that Steve Austin match from WrestleMania.
Oh yeah.
Like I watched it twice last week, and it's unbelievable how great Bret truly was.
Yeah, it was a great match. Owen Hart.
One of the best ever, man, and such a funny guy, and super, just a very, very good human being. Great human. He flew me to WrestleMania 12, and he brought me to another pay-per-view, International Incident, and just a great human being.
That's great. PJ Black / Justin Gabriel.
Gabriel, very funny guy, man. Very eccentric and marches to the beat of his own drum, and I mean that as a compliment. He's a great guy.
Daniel Bryan.
I mean, hell of a wrestler. I've been in Japan with him one time, and a couple times, and I saw it then, just what a wrestling machine he could be, and he like WrestleMania 30, like what a moment.
Yeah, that was great.
Absolutely.
William Regal.
Maybe super underrated promo guy. His promos are awesome. His promos have been awesome. I don't know that he's ever kind of held in that regard. But also one of those guys that takes anything and makes it gold, including like if you watch some of the segments where he's rapping or like there's so many. He's always doing like these almost insane things, and he makes it good. Very underrated like that. And
then finally, Dusty Rhodes.
Dusty, man, unbelievable. I I couldn't believe. I worked with him a little bit in FCW, but then when I came back and worked with him in NXT, and I was kind of assigned to come in and work with him, just unbelievable, man. It took so much time and never made me feel like I was a burden or extra work for him. And he was really awesome. It was such a great person. Such a great person.
Yeah. Well, we just want to thank you for joining us today. Where can we find you on social media?
On social media, on Instagram, I'm at TJ Wilson 711 because I couldn't get TJ Wilson, and 711's my birthday. People ask me if it's the store. It's like, well, I do like Slurpees, but that's my birthday. And I have my supplement company is at Workhorse Fitness Products on Instagram, and on Twitter. My Twitter's at TJ Wilson. So.
All right. Well, thank you so much,
awesome.
man.
No, thank you guys, man.
Take care, man.
Thank you so much for joining.
Guys. No problem.